counterculture. So you've pretty much elaborated of Jfashion and Lolita. But for folks who might not know what counterculture means, could you or Jojo explain what that means?
Yeah, you want to go first, honey? Counterculture is basically, it's kind of self-explanatory in the name, but it's specifically going against what the societal norm is, if not at that given time, just in general. So a lot of people may take a glance at Lolita fashion and be like, well, that's not a counterculture because it's feminine good, you guys are, but people don't understand that the whole concept of hyperfemininity and also women and women aligned people are just the concept of wearing things for yourself and not necessarily for an occasion, the concept that everything has a purpose and there's a time and a place for everything, where people are just taking up space physically, especially with their clothes, is the concept of counterculture. And not to mention, as we mentioned before, how Lolita came to be was a direct counter to the at least Japanese, but it also can apply to Western society as well. The concept that women must be seen and not heard, and that they have to dress for the male gaze. And that, again, counterculture is the exact reason why Lolita fashion exists. And Rue mentioned before, like, if you're not in this because of that, or you don't at least recognize that, then you're just cosplaying at this point. It's okay to, like, you know, frilly dresses are cute, but if you're not going to recognize that feminism is stitched into every single dress in this, then it's probably not for you. A lot of people say like, oh, well, if you don't have the budget, this fashion probably isn't for you. If you don't fit these sizes, it's probably not for you. But I think people really need to understand that if you are not willing to unlearn Eurocentric beauty standards and realize that this is not for the male gaze and that this is people living for themselves, that includes if Black people are making you uncomfortable, fat people are making you uncomfortable, members of marginalized religions making you uncomfortable, then it's probably not for you. And you are probably an imposter, not the people who are complaining validly about, you know, how expensive these are, how inaccessible sizes are, how racist a lot of meetup spaces are. Then maybe you should look at yourself rather than giving people unsolicited advice. Wow. Yeah. I love you. Love you.
I love you both too.
It's just, look, hearing Jojo talk is always just like, I just gush, because like, it's one of the ways we met. I like would hear them speak, and I just remember it's one of the ways, like, it's how I knew I was in love with them. I heard them like speak publicly once, and I was just like,
no. Y'all are so sweet. Y'all are so cute.
Yeah, 5 years. 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, really? 5 years?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
August 29th. Yep.
A good chunk of it. Pretty much y'all always wore Jfashion. That's really nice.
Yeah, it's one of the ways we bonded over. We were like talking about K-pop, and I was just like, yeah, like I'm in a Lolita fashion, but I haven't worn it in like a minute. Like it's still in my closet. And Jordan's like, I wear Lolita, and I was like, nuh-uh. Makes out with you. But like, literally what happened. But
wow.
Just piggybacking off of what Jojo said, and what I said earlier too, like, it's, I don't know, maybe I'm just built different, but I know what definitions are, and I see them as true, and then I carry on my business. You don't get to, like, how are you gonna wear Lolita fashion and just be like, oh yeah, the history is definitely not the history of it. Mm-hmm. No, like, it quite literally is. Like, I need to know why you're wearing this fashion other than it being pretty. Yeah. Like, so you mean to tell me you wear this fashion for your boyfriend? You don't? You wear it for you? Then you're participating in what the fashion means. Yeah. That's okay. Just, I don't know. But yeah, Lolita, just like a lot of other alternative fashions, are a counter culture and its movement to what is seen as norm, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Lolita specifically is so interesting because it takes the femininity that was pushed onto many people. I mean, I could really go in depth as far as like the LGBT community and what that's supposed to look like, the Black community, communities of color, and even just like our white counterparts and dressing feminine. And Lolita takes that and it overdoes it to the point where it should make people uncomfortable because it's not about you. Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny that Lolita makes people uncomfortable because it is in practice a conservative fashion. I mean, especially in its roots. It was all about being dressed head to toe. You didn't want to show a lot of skin. And like, it's so funny that like people get offended where people wear Lolita fashion because it's like, why are you dressed like a little kid? It's like, why do you care what I'm dressed as? First of all, I'm not. I am a grown-ass adult. I pay taxes.
Child was dressed like this.
But also, does it make you uncomfortable because you are perceiving me? Because that's exactly the opposite I want you to do. Do not perceive me. Yeah. My pronouns are done. I do not exist. That is the point. I do not want you to recognize me, speak to me, talk to me. I am existing in the space for myself. I did not put on bloomers and a hoop skirt and a blouse, like, in a like heavy wig for you to ask me for my number. No, I did it because I wanted to look cute and I wanted to exist in a space for me. I wanted to take cute selfies and look at them later and say, oh, I look good that day. I do this for me. And like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just echoing what Jordan said, but I just think it's really funny that Lolitas are so gung-ho about it being a counterculture. I feel like there are so many Lolitas I know that are they get it. It is what it is. They're with it and they're for it and they know. And I talk and hang out with those Lolitas. But then the Lolitas that are really just like, it isn't political. And then the Lolitas that specifically are like, I don't want this to be a political space. I'm like, it is inherently a political space because we are wearing political clothes. It's so ironic to me. It just goes to show that they're misinformed. I almost wish that like we as a community just talked. I mean, I get why we don't, but just like talk about it more and just bring constantly to the forefront. Like this is a politically charged fashion. If you are uncomfortable, that is your problem. In fact, you should be uncomfortable because we are learning. This is not a stagnant space. Like we don't have to necessarily talk about like politics in detail very deeply, but we do exist in this space and know that us existing and being the way that we are is a statement. And that's okay. We can exist in that statement, but just to act like it's something it's not is like, I don't know. Like I said before, it's really insulting because there's so much work that people have done for y'all to pretend it's something it's not. And like, if anything, we should embrace it. I think it's particularly very badass and passion money of us to take a fashion that's so feminine and make it badass. Because I've met some pretty rad Lolitas. Like, so yeah, I don't know. I love it. I think that's all I have to say. I'm sorry. I hope I answered you.
Honestly, I'm probably going to make that a highlight, just so y'all know. I will make that a highlight. So getting to the next topic, this might actually be our last one. So accountability work and restoration.
Okay.
What does that mean in terms of Jfashion overall?
Yeah, so this is something that I brought up in my little forum, but accountability is, and restoration is, restoring. At least in the United States, a lot of things just surrounding like, when you do bad and you don't follow the rules, you go somewhere else. In our case, you don't follow the law, you either get fined or depending on how severe the crime is, you go to prison. Not very restorative, not very rehabilitative.
Right.
Same with schools. You don't follow the class rules, you go to the principal's office, you miss out on your education.
Okay.
Accountability kind of works with restoration and restorative justice in order to, and this depends on, the crime severity, what the person affected wants, what the person who did the wrong can do. But accountability and restorative justice works to kind of remedy these issues that we have in society. And that's kind of what, or at least I'd like to see, not only in the Jfashion community, but also in general. A lot of people look at cancel culture and they're like, oh, well, it's just witch hunt this, crucifixion that. I'm like, that's because you're looking at it through a Western lens. You took something that was brought up and coined by Black people to hold corporations who are otherwise constantly making money, constantly exploiting people, looking at very big influencers who are making bank and who are blocking their followers, even if they just so happen to ask a simple question. These sort of things, we're trying to combat this concept of don't answer questions, what you see is what you get sort of thing. And when we look at this in the Jfashion community, again, since it's very small, a lot of people think, oh, you're trying to ruin somebody's life.
No.
Nobody is trying to ruin lovely Laura's life. Nobody is trying to ruin any of these other non-active, inactive, very ignorant white influencers and otherwise non-Black influencers of color. I personally feel that, you know, sometimes deplatforming is necessary, which is somebody who has a platform, you know, not having a platform anymore. That's what exactly it is. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, you know, a lot of people just think that because they have this platform, they also not only are untouchable, but also they kind of fall back on that in their privilege. It's just like, well, I'm still a person, but you have these followers. You're aware of this platform that you have. A lot of people would do, like, I saw this one influencer who did balloons to celebrate, and yet they still went to, you know, protests fully decked out in Jfashion, even though we were told, hey, don't do that. A lot of people just did like the whole blackout thing, which a lot of people told you, hey, maybe don't post a bunch of Black photos on Instagram. That takes away from the information that we're putting out. Or they've been absolutely silent, but they're like, I don't know what to do. You have 50K followers on Instagram, you have 100K followers on Instagram, you have 1 million followers on Instagram. I think you know what to do, but you just don't want to do the work. And that's what it comes down to. Accountability is a result, at least with me. When we did accountability talk with our local comm, I did it out of love for my community, as Rue said. I love my community, but I don't love people who foster an environment that marginalized people don't feel welcome in.
Yeah.
I don't like when mods act like they're just, you know, high and mighty and that they cannot be touched, or because they may be an influencer, they think they're such a big deal so that they just didn't know. You can't fall into that. A lot of these people who are in these positions of power, it would be one thing if they're just, you know, child stars who came to fame and that's all they know. These people are everyday people who are older than me. They're 25, 30, 35, 40, etc. And so what accountability looks like for Jfashion is expressing love through, again, not sugarcoating, but calling a spade a spade. Hey, you said this action, it was this is how it made this people feel. The person responding, okay, I understand that this was said. What I did was wrong because of this. In the future, instead, I will do this and I will continuously work through this. It's not necessarily a point A to point B, but it is a continuum, because allyship is not a status, is not a permanent one-time deal. It is ongoing. We mentioned before they have certain privilege and stuff like that. You know, we constantly talk about it. Like, I'm a thin person, I'm a light-skinned Black person, I am able-bodied. So there are certain things that I may not catch up on, but I'm not gonna fall back on that ignorance and say like, oh, well, since I'm not a fat person, I just don't know anything and you just have to be okay with that. I'm going to say that, you know, I said something that was really fatphobic. This comment specifically was fatphobic because I'm going to do the work myself, not asking for the time of, you know, a fat Lolita, for example, to educate me. That's not something that is, it's not obligated. It's not an obligation. And a lot of people also have to realize that. They think that, oh, well, I have to go to these people, so they have to educate me about these things. And it's all about not only realizing that you're going to mess up, but also people don't have to forgive you. Yeah. You could do all the right things. You could apologize the right way. You could deplatform yourself. Yeah. You could, you know, give money not only to, you know, just these Trevor Project and vaguely Black Lives Matter and, you know, crowdfunding efforts. You could do all those things and people will be like, you know, it just still stings for me. I don't trust people because your people or whatever culture you come from have been harmful in the past. And I personally don't feel comfortable with associating with you. You have to be okay with this. And a lot of influencers and a lot of people who are empowered, they come into these platforms thinking, oh, I'm going to change people's lives. I want to influence people. I want to inspire people. You can't inspire people and not expect people to call you in. You can't say you're doing something for a certain community, and then when the people from that community are like, hey, this actually isn't cool, ignore them. I experienced a lot of this on TikTok, me being a person who was a member of Gen Z. you know, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter, listen to Black people, uplift Black voices. I just called in this person being like, hey, maybe don't accept people or like go over the top to accept Trump supporters, fascists, bullshit, accept everything that they say and just, you know, fall back on your white privilege, say like, hee, I'm one of you guys, wink. Like, to them, they're going to see that you're a white person. They're not even going to question whether you're actually, you know, a socialist or what have you. They're going to see that you're white and level with you for a second and relate to you. And therefore, whatever you say does not matter. And also the people of color who are, you know, in that situation are going to see this white person, these white people are interacting. They're benefiting from white privilege. It may not be a subconscious, it may not be a conscious thing. It's usually a subconscious thing. But I called this person in and they were like, deleting my comments, blocked, constantly happens. So it's really just a matter of realizing what allyship looks like, because there's always these things, just like be a good person, listen. But a lot of people don't realize what listening looks like. It's not just hearing what the person says, but like being able to reflect meaning, saying, oh yeah, I like the color purple. I say you have a preference for the color purple. You like purples. You have a preference for lavenders. You tend to, it's that sort of thing. I say that really hurt my feelings. You would say my actions hurt my feelings, not I'm a terrible person. So it really, again, realizing that while we don't have the same power, like reach as like, for instance, a corporation like Walmart, it is still very important for us to be able to hold each other accountable and to be able to restore those who were harmed. Yes, you may not have meant to hurt somebody, but they still hurt them, and you need to respect the person you hurt's wishes and also dedicate yourself to unlearning these behaviors. Again, with the whole Love Your thing, but also things that I've just seen in my, not only my community, but just all of these white influencers that people just so recommend me follow, but again, they're just silent, just wearing these pretty dresses. If I wanted to see somebody wear a pretty dress, I would just look at Devil Inspired's website. But just seeing those things and just realizing that I'm not looking at this as like, you're this corporation, you're still somebody of influence, you still are a person, and therefore I'm going to love you in the sense of call you in and make sure that you're growing. Because I could just, you know, let you, you know, throw you to the wolves of sorts, not necessarily people who are hurt, but, you know, like people who are infiltrating and stuff like that. I could just let you be willfully ignorant, but that's not helping anybody. That's not helping the person in question. That's not helping the people that are hurt. That's not love. That's just being a yes man. And restorative justice and accountability does not seek yes men. It seeks people who are going to help you grow. And growing is not easy. It's not painless process. You're going to get your feelings hurt. You're going to cry. But what you're not going to do is weaponize those tears against people. You're not going to use buzzwords to be like, oh yeah, well, I just didn't know. Like, you're going to take it at face value. Look at your actions, how you got there and how you're going to change it.
Just, again, Jordan is just so good with words, but
yeah.
I guess same, like restored. It's like, I know a lot of this is foreign to like both influencers and people alike, because we don't live in a society that talks about what restorative justice and restoration looks like. We literally don't live in an active community that does that. That's not the norm for our Western American society. And I would even say in Canada too, it's not the norm. Same with like accountability in the sense of like how more recently we've been more like holding people accountable, and what does that look like? These are questions that have been around for a long time. Restoration justice is not a new concept. It has been around for a long time, but it is not something that is normal in the sense that it's the norm for our society.
It even looks different based off of the things that we have to our disposal.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I understand that this is like hard to like even grasp and understand. And like Jordan said, it's going to look different depending. But I feel like for our community, there's so much work to be done. And this is no shade to anyone, but I do know that a lot of Lolitas of colors and Black Lolitas, when we post content, we don't want to talk about the negative. We live the negative. Why we want to talk about the negative? So a lot of the stuff that we do, we just want to make people feel comfortable. We want to give that representation. I get that. I vibe with that. But in our community, I have noticed that as far as like restoration and accountability and talking about the hard things, our white counterparts are not talking about the hard things because they're not taking it seriously. The Black people and people of color affected by the hard stuff either don't want to talk about it because they don't want to make it seem like, well, the white Lolitas aren't talking about it, only the Black and brown Lolitas are talking about it. So clearly the Black and brown Lolitas are starting the drama and the white Lolitas are not. The Black and brown people are being aggressive. It's this whole narrative. Like, I get it. It's exhausting. So I get why a lot of Black and brown Lolitas don't talk about this stuff, because first of all, it's exhausting. Secondly, we live it. And thirdly, we're probably not going to be taken seriously. So we want the white allies in our community to kind of join in with us and share some of that load and burden with us and be like, hey, like, we see you, we hear you, can we do? Like, me as an active ally, I'm gonna help. So you don't have to go through this alone. But that's not what we're getting in our community, unfortunately. We still have, and I get, like, every community is gonna have their own opinions, but it really sucks that our community is so niche, and it is rather small. Like, it is big, but it is kind of rather small in the grand scheme of things. And we just can't get people that could agree on the humanity of others. We can't. And because we're never going to have a huge collective of Lolitas who feel exactly the same, restoration is hard. Because, of course, I look at this and I think restoration and accountability looks like taking a break, owning up, being honest, stepping down. But I know that these people are not going to do that, and they're not going to agree with that. And because we're going to have conflicting opinions, nothing's actually going to get accomplished. People who are hurt are still going to be hurt, and the people that did the hurt will never have to accept accountability. They will never have to admit that they were wrong unless they choose. And then them choosing to admit that they're wrong still puts them in the light of a savior. Because, wow, this person is so aware that they did a mess up. They're so great. Like, it's still not helping anyone. If anything, you're making the perpetrator look like they're innocent, and you're making the survivors and victims look like they're the people who did it. Like, it's not helping. And so I feel like, for me, for the Jfashion community, accountability and restoration for Jfashion would be taking the rose-tinted glasses off and actually having these discussions. We hate it. We don't want to believe it's real. I know a lot of Lolitas literally use this fashion as escapism because life is hard and it sucks. But, I don't have to think about that when I wear a pretty dress. I get it. I like to do the same, but I don't get to have that privilege. When I go to meetups, I don't want to think about race. I don't want to think about people don't like me because I'm brown. I don't want to think about the fact that people don't like me because I'm fat. I just want to wear a pretty dress and vibe. But I am reminded that people are not going to like me for X, Y, and Z. And I'm made to feel uncomfortable in a space that I used to no longer feel uncomfortable to my day-to-day. The sooner that other Lolitas realize that you're not the only person in this community that uses this fashion to feel good about themselves, the better and easier and faster we'll be able to kind of come together as a community and start to really be able to empathize with one another. Because we can do accountability within our small communities and restoration, but at the end of the day, the community at large doesn't want to do that. So it's going to be harder. Mm-hmm. It means if I want Lovely Lord to take accountability in a way that is actually helping people in our community, that means still that even though me and Jordan might be like, hey, you should do this, she can still go to her thousands of followers who say something completely different, and she can just tone us out. We are just a follower in the drop of a bucket of the people that watch her. That sucks. I wish I had the answer to, like, what could she do? But, like, what she could do really means her, like, changing the way that she thinks and responds. And that is something that Lovely Lord, not even just her, because there are people in our community who think that they are hot shit because they have a bunch of followers who think exactly the same way. They don't want to do the work. They don't. And because you have people that are going to agree with you, you don't want to do the work. Lovely Lord specifically would have to see that there's a problem and actively work on it herself. Not wanting people to agree with her, not wanting people to not disagree with her, is she would actively have to seek out the education. And I know as, like, a white person, everything's been kind of handed to you because that's white privilege, so you don't really understand that you have to do this extra work, but that's what it's going to have to look like. I wish us we a community could come together and be like, no, we gotta start addressing the tough conversations. But every time we do, because we get shot down, we get demonized, we get bullied, we get silenced. So I get it. I get why it's not done that much. But I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly. But accountability for me looks a certain way, but I don't even know if we as a community can actually do it, because it's not even just Lolita. Like, I don't want to say this without starting any drama, but there is someone in the Jfashion like community and the K Club community who has very, very, very heinous things that she has done recently that people have tried to bring to the attention of people in the K Club, because this person is a mod and there are minors, and this person has done things that can affect and harm minors. People have tried bringing to the community that this is an issue and was shot down. And it's like, it's not even about cancellation. It's not even about demonizing people.
It's not even about the consequences.
It's not even about the consequences and all that stuff, even though I have very strong feelings about that. But it was just goes to show that if someone is pretty enough, has a big enough following, they don't have to deal with the consequences, because y'all feed into the narrative that if they're popular enough, why should they? I mean, there's so much nuance that could go into that too, but it really sucks. Like, we as a community really have to stick to our guns and say, this is what we will accept, and this is what we will not accept. And when these things happen, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, but that's never really going to happen. And I don't want to say that because I want to have faith, but I've seen it. And
it can't happen in friendly reminders anymore.
It can't.
Like, when things go down, it's always like a friendly reminder that this is okay.
We got to start being blunt.
This you can't do this. So what's up?
Yeah,
sort of thing.
And it sucks. And like, I witness it, and it breaks my heart, because these are communities where I want to feel safe. I want to feel heard. But I do know, and that's why the whole like Lovely Lauren, the Nazi person, it's like, yeah, I could talk about it, but it's almost like I don't want to feel like I'm hopeless. But I know that change is really not going to happen if y'all keep feeding into this. Change will only happen when we actually want to change. If you guys are not going to want to hear other people's side of the story, educate yourself, and stick to your guns, then nothing really is going to happen. I can keep screaming and I can keep talking, but if no one listens, then no one listens. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that sounds like really negative, but it's just a pattern that I've seen for years, even outside of this community. Like, it's really a group. Like, you know, it takes a community to raise a child. It's really going to have to be a group effort for us to really seek change in our community. There's always going to be some of us that put in the work. Like, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what people like even Amy is doing. Like, I'm so glad that she is getting the platform that she deserves, because she is so kind and helpful, and it's when you get people resources and stuff. Like, she is such a genuine person and deserves that. And, you know, I want to get back to my community, and it hurts me because I really want to, and I just haven't, and that's a fault of me. No one else but me. I just gotta bite the bullet and do it. But like, there's going to be people out there that do want to make a change, but it's so easy for us to get drowned out. We can even continue to lift each other up and bring our voices to the front line, but it's so easy for us to get drowned out because people don't want to hear it. People aren't looking for that. People don't even want to acknowledge that there's any problems in the community. People don't even want to acknowledge that a lot of the problems are in us, and it's self-conscious, and you have to unpack that and work on it. People don't want to think about that. There's so much wrong with our community because there's so much wrong with like the people in our community that don't want to acknowledge anything's wrong. So they bring all of that wrongness into our community, and that's why it seems like it's so much. We use escapism in this community to escape everything, including our own flaws and our faults and our hurt. And that's a problem. We really need to address that. And I want to, but I just don't know if it's actually going to happen and people are actively going to work on it. So I don't know. It breaks my heart, but I don't know.
It should never have to come to, you know, like what people think is a witch hunt, and like, you know,
yeah.
People are afraid of call out posts, but that is what happens when you foster a culture of enabling and coddling.
Yep.
People say, you know, and I've done this so many times. It's just like, usually I won't even call people out publicly. It's a DM. It's like, hey, this happened, blase, blase. And either like, okay, or they gaslight you about your experience, or they make some sort of excuse. Then it gets to the point where it blows up when you honestly could have just taken 30 seconds, 50 seconds, however, to just hear that person out and look at what they are doing and doing something about it. Not saying that, oh yeah, and if you can't get to it immediately, being honest, you know, hey, thank you. I realize this is giving this needs my attention, so I will be back to you, giving them a genuine promise. Like, you know, say I have work at 4 and I get off at 10 p.m. I will give this my full attention later tonight at 10:30. Giving people promises and following through. So many people will think like, oh yeah, I can just ghost people. Oh yeah, I can just put this on the back burner. And you should be able to take care of your mental health, but you also need to make sure that you're not harming other people for the sake of, you know, your personal mental health. If you are interacting with people, if you have this sort of influence, you need to make sure that you are not stepping on other people's toes. Your healing should not be harming to somebody else.
Right. Wow. I'm always just blown away by everything y'all say.
Sorry.
No, stop apologizing, Rue. I love it. Yeah, and quite honestly, even in our local community, for the audience, we live in Ohio. I live in Columbus, and they live in Akron. And there is someone that does have a pretty major following, and some stuff over the summer where, you know, gotta do better, and then they apologize. But to be quite honest, nothing. There's been nothing. Radio silence.
All it did was throw someone under the bus and then kept doing what they were doing.
Yep, pretty much, which is an unfortunate thing that does happen in a lot of communities, and not just Lolita and Jfashion.
Yeah. It discourages people, which is not what we want, but that's what happens when you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when they hit 10K, all the balloons, you know.
Balloons, confetti. Oh my gosh, you're always so. And do we do what? And then we have to ask ourselves, what do we want of these influencers? Are they just in fashion inspo for us? What are we expecting of them? Why are we so drawn to them?
Right.
And me personally, I'm doing like the self-care thing where I'm trying not to put, you know, so much faith on these influencers, but so many people will just shove in your face, I'm an influencer. I want to be an inspiration. Mm-hmm. But like, who are you inspiring actually? Because if you're only inspiring people who look like you, that's fine and dandy, but like then you're not, that's not an inspiration. That is just you. It's just an inner circle thing. You're just broadcasting your own little thing, and that's fine. But like, you can't act like you want to be an inspiration to everybody. But then when not everybody tells you what you want to hear, then you just turn the other cheek or keep doing whatever. And of course, we don't expect everybody to think and just, you know, an instant off switch, like, oh, I'm going to apologize exactly the way I want. Even I slip up. Even Rue slips up. Everybody slips up. However, just because everybody slips up and everybody makes mistakes does not mean that everybody should just be able to be coddled.
Yeah.
Just as a Black child would have to be expected to grow up, white children should also face the consequences for their very adult and detrimenting actions, just like how white Lolita influencers should get the same amount of seriousness for their offenses as Black people experience the same amount of harm from those offenses of sorts.
Yeah. Like, ditto. It's super frustrating. Like, I know there's like one question left, and it's like, what, and you'll talk about it, but like, it's one of I was thinking about said person with 10K followers today as well, because I have
in their circle,
which I don't have to talk about right now. I can, but it bothers me because from the moment I met said person, there was an objective. I was seen as a pawn, and that's an issue. And like, I just look and it's like, you have all these followers and you're so popular, but you don't contribute anything to your community other than being self-serving and harmful, like really harmful. And I don't like that at all. And I hate that, like, but that's what the face of the Lolita community is. This person is thin, white, seen as conventionally attractive by Western societal standards. And that's enough. They don't have to do anything else but that.
And they're adding on again the whole concept of like, you know, Lolita fashion is dressing for oneself, but a lot of people take self-serving as an opportunity to be selfish and to not think about anything that doesn't immediately concern them. And that's a problem. Again, you should not have a diverse group of yes men. You should have a diverse group of friends who are more than willing to call you in. And you should be the type of person who takes that in however way you guys decide. Some people are different than others, but it should be that there should be some sort of change. After that accountability talk we had in our comm, I should have seen at least a little bit amount of change, some sort of public addressing, some sort of, this is my action plan. This is what I am going to do. Cause it's like, oh, instead of, you know, talking over Black people, I'm going to not talk over Black people. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that look like? Nothing. It's not about what you shouldn't do. What are you going to do in the future? So not only that behavior is minimized, if not completely eliminated, but also what are you going to do to not only help you learn, but also help others and inspire others in the way that you say that you're going to.
Yeah. And it's, yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, but like, I've had issues with said person for a while, and it's so funny because I gave this person the benefit of the doubt. So many times.
A lot of people of color will just give people the benefit of the doubt just so that which is, again, I cannot stress enough, a lot of these defense mechanisms are life-saving sometimes because we cannot always afford to be loud and stand up for ourselves. A lot of people are like, why didn't you just stand up for yourself? It was like, because it was either that or, you know, there's cops around, there's people around. I could have been ridiculed at worst and, you know, at worst. And so it takes a lot to not only stand up for yourself as a person, but also as a Black person. You could easily just be like, you were just seeking drama. You're just loud and attention seeking, and you just want to clap for yourself. You're just jealous because you don't have 10K followers, which, but it's a mess.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's so frustrating because I feel like, again, we're just feeding into this narrative of like, y'all don't have to do anything. You can continue to use Black people as something for clout points and to get followers and likes on posts, but like, you don't care about the Black people actually wearing the dresses. Like, that is just so, it's painful to see. And said person in our comm has done that. They have, I mean, literally when we met said person, they reached out to Jordan. They actually wanted to like dress up my girlfriend and was just like, oh, you can fit my clothes. And Jordan's like, no, I'm tall. I can't, like, this won't be short on me. Like, they forced us to follow them on Instagram. Literally, it was really awkward. They followed back Jordan, not me. I don't care. But it was just really weird how they were going about talking to us, how they were going about talking to our friends, being like, I have an Instagram, follow me. The way that they would only reach out to us when we were getting attention. Like, it's weird. And I've started to notice a pattern. And then the whole, like, you went to a Black Lives Matter movement wearing pastels
and treated it like a
fashion. And like, that's like, that
the photo shoot after, really. I remember that.
Yeah, it just goes to show how you and said person that was with you, both of y'all do the same thing. Just don't treat Black people like people. You treat us like commodities, hashtags, clout points, accessories. Yeah, I'm not an accessory for your Milky Planet cord. I'm not. I'm a person. And what I'm experiencing is very real. And you will choose to not listen to us, but also accessorize us. So it's painful. And, you know, even the people that they hang out with, like, we're talking about white Lolitas and other like people in our community that are influencers. So many of them have done the same thing. I don't care if I name drop this person, but after Paradiso specifically like followed me after Jordan was crowned OG, and I don't really care because it's Lolitas. I do a thing though that I specifically only follow Lolitas that look like me. I followed like able and disabled Lolitas, but I follow fat Lolitas, I follow Black Lolitas. I like for my feed to be people that look like me because that's what I like to see. I'm forced to see thin white people everywhere else in my life. I can choose what I see on my TikTok and my Instagram and my Twitter. It is what it is. I like to look at queer people. It is what it is. If you're offended by that, then you make your own Twitter feed, but that's my Twitter feed. And a said person followed me. They were spam liking my post and I followed back to be respectful, even though I really didn't want to. And the first thing I see on their story is them demonizing fat people. News flash. I'm a big bitch. Like I'm fat. It is what it is. I'm a plus size Lolita. And you met me and you saw I was plus size Lolita and you liked and commented on my pictures and you saw that I was plus size Lolita and you made that sort of comment. Like, I know you followed me for clout. Like, you know what I mean? Like you literally were like
distancing yourself from like, oh, I can't be fat phobic. I have
yeah, like it's and I see this trend so much in the community, and it's just like, why can't you just see people as people? I don't know. That is just so foreign to me. Like, just treat people, be respectful. Why would you do that? And that's just like a little thing. But like said person in our comm is like buddy with said person, and I'm like, but I already know how that person is. I know how that person's friend is. Like, you're surrounding yourself with people who also are not taking accountability, that are also just, I have followers and I wear pink. Look at me. I'm so political just because I wear pink and I'm feminine. And I'm like, you are a cis white woman. What are you doing for the other people in your community? Like, even if it's small, you took the time to be fat phobic. Are you taking the time to make people in your community feel more welcomed? Are you taking the time to like talk about things like, okay, you don't talk about Black Lives Matter all the time. It's exhausting. But imagine how exhausting it is for the people who are actually living it. Like, I see you guys have so much to say about dresses, but so little to say about people who wear them. Right. That's an issue. But we give these people their views and their clicks and their likes.
Right.
I don't know. I know I'm like rambling at this point.
I mean, that kind of pretty much answered, I believe, the last question. So you're not rambling. Do you have any closing thoughts, Jojo?
Sorry.
Gosh, because I was like getting lost and like trying to think, because this is just a constant pattern again of like how so many white people will just again feign ignorance.
Yeah.
And
I like, I'm so
think
sorry.
What is so important is that they act like they need to be our savior. That's not what we're asking at all. We just need you to think for a second and use critical thinking for a second. Like, I remember one of the questions that you were asking, like, name somebody who has not been an ally, name somebody who has. I can't think of a single person. I can only think of one white person who has actually showed up, and that is the person who runs Neo Rococo memes on Instagram. But the people who don't show up, I could name specifics, but like literally if you were to toss a name out, I'd be like, I don't even know that person, but I wouldn't put it past them, because again, it's just part of this culture that white people are not only supposed to be like saviors, but also based on their race. And I cannot stress enough that when we talk about privilege, it is not necessarily due to your individual, like it's not saying that you personally do not struggle. Like there are white people who are lower income, there are white people who are members of the LGBTQ community, but you can and will and do, I've seen it personally, fall back on your white privilege whenever you see it fit. Yep. You see Trump supporters in your place of work, and not only do you seek them out for tips, but also make it seem like you're on their side. Not only will you make nice with fascists, but you will also say, I know we're still friends, we can agree to disagree. That's about pizza toppings, not about people's lives, by the way. And they're always seen as the peacemakers, whereas their Black and brown counterparts are seldom seen as that unless they cater to whiteness. And catering to whiteness isn't necessarily a good or bad thing, it just depends. But it is oftentimes a defense mechanism. Either you know, if you're in the situation, you might agree with what a white person is saying per se, or be very particular about what they're saying so that you aren't the odd one out, to say the least, and without going into graphics. And I feel like a lot of these influencers don't exactly know what they're getting into and what exactly follower count means. I don't care that you have 10,000 followers because I think that makes you an interesting person per se. I care to know what you're doing about those 10,000 followers.
Yeah.
I should not see that Scarfing Scars, for example, is unapologetically talking about Black issues when it is not February and when Black people aren't getting killed at large. I care that she is doing that out of just on a whim. Let's talk about this today. We're talking about this today. That shouldn't just be because that is her brand. You talking about issues should just be like a mask off sort of thing. It should just be like, this is what it is. I don't care if your brand is that you're the sweet and shy person. It should be a this is what it is thing. This is what I am intolerant to. This is what we do not accept in this community. And the fact that so many influencers and white influencer circles will just kind of have this unspoken rule where they don't talk about race. That is a privilege. I would love for things not to be about race, but so many people make it about race, and we need to talk about it. We need to validate people's experiences. We need to listen fully to people's experiences, even if it hurts your feelings. Your feelings are yours, and I can't say that you have them, but if it's a situation where, you know, Black people are being killed at large, I kind of don't really care about how white people feel. And that's something that a lot of people stray away from, but it's true. If you are somebody who is trying to, you know, be an inspiration, you have to be okay when understanding that you're not always going to be the center of attention. You're not going to walk around with your follower account. People are going to look at you and know that you're white, and also you're going to benefit from that. So you need to do something in order to combat that and constantly learn it. It's perpetual.
Mhm. Yeah. Especially when you do have such a huge following. I mean, especially in Lolita, because it is a niche,
Yeah.
obviously, but I would imagine, you know, Japanese Lolitas or even Japanese influencers would notice our Western Lolita influencers. So really, um, I hate to say it, but it is a reflection of us,
Yeah,
and you
it
know,
is.
and I feel like just in general, like we don't talk about Japanese influencers, and I mean, obviously, it's a Japan has their own issues, and obviously we have a different society, but a lot of these things do connect. I mean, a lot of people don't think that in freaking Tokyo and other parts of Japan there were several Black Lives Matter
That
protests. Like
and the trauma.
people don't think about that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a good chunk of Black people, and you know, half Japanese and half Black people in Japan, and people I feel like just don't talk about that, and that is something obviously I would like to discuss. But I think we honestly had such a great conversation, the three of us, and I really want to thank
Yes.
y'all. Like honestly, like this doesn't have to be a one-time thing. Please feel free to want to, you know, just DM me and message me when you do want to come on back. Because I would love to have y'all.
No problem. We
Course.
really appreciate the whole, you know, offering this series. I feel like it's very
Yeah.
important, especially since it was brought up in the group. I feel like it was a great point to not only put Black issues on the map, but also put these groups on the map and make people feel heard. Again, I feel like a lot of times what I also appreciate about these groups is that it impacts the real. A lot of times online communities will, it feels like it kind of is just online, but to see things tangible, it validates people's experiences.
Yeah.
And makes it seem like they're not so alone. And a lot of people think they're like, oh yeah, well that happens, but I can't even articulate how important that is. So I really do appreciate the creation of this series.
Yeah. I really hope that this kind of gets the ball rolling and gives people more confidence to really speak out, and knowing that like they're not alone and feeling some type of way, if not about this situation, then others. Like, even if it's just me and Jojo and you that are on their side, I want people to know that they're heard and that they are justified in being upset. And Rude and I, random person on Twitter that likes to repost memes, I stand with you because I know it's not cool and I want to see change.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I hope this is just kind of a ripple, really, because my whole goal with this series, it's really not just about, you know, like Lolita just encompasses so much of our lives, and if people just don't really see that. So unfortunately, our guest, my internet actually cut off. So yeah, so Jojo and Rue, they were lovely, and I honestly enjoyed talking to them. I really hope y'all really listen to their voices, because quite honestly, they just told me so much. They really told me so much, and even just from this conversation, I just feel like I don't know, I just feel like I just learned so much that I would have never have learned if I had never talked to the both of them. So really, Rue and Jojo, thank you so much. Y'all were lovely. I really loved talking to y'all. And I really hope we can see each other for our first time in person. As I mentioned, we are in the same local community. We live in the same state. We're probably like, what, an hour, I think like 2 hours away from each other. But really, my hope is that y'all enjoyed their conversation and really just listen to what they had to say. While anyone who was named in this video, this is meant to make you really listen. So if your name was here, please just listen and just realize that some of your actions have hurt a lot of people. So again, because my internet cut off, I couldn't do closing remarks, but I really hope that really the audience, so you who is watching, I really want to thank you for watching this, because I know this was a really tough conversation, if for one you've never been exposed. So really, I just want to thank you folks for who is watching and listening and really taking into heart really what the two of them said and really experienced. This isn't something easy for us to talk about in general. Really, Black people, a lot of times, not every Black person, but many Black people go through similar experiences in Lolita. And while I personally haven't experienced not probably nearly as much as the two of them combined, I can say there are many things that we do share, and I just hope that you don't just brush off their voices and everything. So the whole point of this, I guess I'll call it a podcast, is really to not just Black voices to be heard on here, is for regular folks, like I said, to be heard. So the reason why this podcast is called Frill Talk, Listen to Real Voices in Jfashion, is to bring all sorts of voices, and so that we as a global Jfashion community can learn to understand others' perspectives and maybe even change some of our I guess way of thinking, some unlearning, some unpacking to do. So this has been Marina, and I really want to thank y'all so much again, and really Rue and Jojo, y'all were great, and they're such a beautiful couple, and I'm so happy to have really talked to them finally, and I look forward to the next time that we are first able to meet. So thank you so much, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.